There's a strange social rule most people never question. If you say you love dogs, that's normal. If you say you love cats, that's a personality trait. But if you say you don't like cats, really don't like them, people quietly assume something is wrong with you. Cold, unempathetic, controlling, emotionally unavailable. What's interesting is how fast that judgment happens, and how confident people feel making it. Here's the part nobody talks about. Disliking cats isn't usually about cats at all. It's about how your brain handles uncertainty, boundaries, and social feedback. And once you see it, a lot of your past reactions, your discomfort, your irritation, even your aversion, start to make sense. This is where it gets interesting. Most animals humans bond with easily share one key trait: predictability. Dogs evolved alongside us to read human cues. They respond quickly. They reward effort with attention. They give clear feedback. Your brain loves that. When you pet a dog, your nervous system gets a clean loop. Action, response, reward. Dopamine spikes. Oxytocin follows. Your brain learns this interaction is safe and successful. Cats don't work that way. Cats are not optimized for human approval. They don't automatically mirror your energy. They don't escalate affection just because you want it. And for some people, that feels deeply unsettling. What's actually happening in your brain is a mismatch between expectation and outcome. Your nervous system is asking, did I do the right thing? And the cat is saying, nothing. No reassurance. No clear signal. No predictable reward. For brains that rely heavily on feedback loops to regulate comfort, this creates low-grade stress. Not fear. Not hatred. Just irritation and unease. And that discomfort gets misinterpreted as dislike. Human empathy isn't one thing. It's layered. Research in psychology consistently shows that empathy toward humans and empathy toward animals don't perfectly overlap. They're related, but only loosely. Some people are highly attuned to social cues, tone, and reciprocity. Others are more sensitive to structure, roles, and expectations. Neither is better. They're just different wiring. One large psychology study found that people can score high in human-centered empathy while feeling little emotional connection to animals, or the reverse. The brain systems involved overlap, but they're not identical. So when someone says, "I just don't like cats," it's rarely a moral statement. It's a sensory and cognitive one. Cats violate a specific expectation. That affection should be earned predictably and returned reliably. And if your nervous system values clarity, cats feel like noise. This is where contrast matters. People who love cats often describe them as honest, respectful, or emotionally intelligent. People who dislike cats often describe them as aloof, ungrateful, or unreadable. Notice what's actually being described in both cases. Not the animal, the relationship dynamic. Cats require a tolerance for ambiguity. They don't guarantee emotional payoff. They don't negotiate affection on demand. If your brain associates safety with responsiveness, that's not charming, it's destabilizing. What's actually happening is a boundary sensitivity difference. Cats have firm, non-negotiable boundaries. They signal them subtly, and they enforce them without apology. For some people, that's refreshing. For others, it triggers a low-level threat response, not because you want control, but because your brain expects interaction to follow rules. When it doesn't, the system flags it as inefficient or unsafe. This doesn't mean you lack empathy. In fact, many people who dislike cats score higher in responsibility-driven empathy. They're attentive to obligations, roles, and mutual effort. They tend to show care through consistency, reliability, and action. Cats don't reward that style. They don't care how consistent you are. They don't track effort. They don't reciprocate out of fairness. They respond to internal states. That's foreign to brains trained on external rules. Disliking cats often correlates with a preference for legible social systems. clear expectations, clear signals, clear outcomes. That same wiring often shows up elsewhere. You're uncomfortable when people are passive-aggressive. You dislike testing behavior in relationships. You value direct communication. You don't enjoy guessing games. Cats are a guessing game. And your nervous system is allowed to opt out. The mistake people make is moralizing that reaction. They turn a neurobehavioral preference into a character judgment. But psychology doesn't support that leap. There's no evidence that disliking cats means you're less kind, less caring, or less emotionally capable. It usually means your empathy expresses itself through structure rather than attunement, through dependability rather than subtlety, through clarity rather than emotional improvisation. Here's the part nobody talks about. Many people who dislike cats actually experience too much internal monitoring during ambiguous interactions. Their brains are constantly scanning for feedback. When feedback doesn't arrive, the system overworks. That's exhausting. Avoidance becomes self-regulation. Not cruelty. Not coldness. Just conservation. So when someone jokes, "I don't trust people who hate cats," what they're really saying is, "I trust people who enjoy emotional ambiguity." That's a preference, not a virtue. You don't need to rewire yourself to appreciate an animal whose entire social strategy conflicts with your nervous system. You don't need to explain yourself. And you don't need to pretend discomfort is curiosity. You're not broken for wanting clarity. You're not controlling for preferring reciprocity. You're not emotionally limited because your empathy speaks a different dialect. The quieter truth is this. Cats reveal differences in how humans process connection. They don't test kindness. They test tolerance for uncertainty. Neuroscientists sometimes describe this as a difference in predictive processing. Some brains feel calm when outcomes are uncertain and information unfolds slowly. Others regulate stress by reducing surprise as quickly as possible. Cats sit squarely in the middle of uncertainty. Their signals are probabilistic, not guaranteed. If your brain is wired to minimize prediction error, repeated ambiguity doesn't feel intriguing. It feels inefficient. Avoidance, in that case, isn't emotional failure. It's neural self-regulation. And not everyone's brain is built for that. That doesn't make you less human. It just makes you legible to yourself. If this resonated, there's another pattern worth exploring. How people with structure-driven empathy navigate relationships in a world that increasingly rewards emotional ambiguity. That's where a lot of unnecessary shame comes from. And once you see it, things get calmer.